All right. Good morning, dudes and dudettes. Everybody knows. One take. Let's get to it. 5.3. All right, so what do we need to know about 5.3? 5.3 is talking about globalization. I spoke about globalization a little bit earlier in 5.1. With that, globalization has some benefits and some serious cons. Now, when we are talking about this inside the political atmosphere, we're talking about specifically the social, cultural, political issues as well as the economic political issues. So this is a all-encompassing aspect of this class. Is we need to talk about how do other countries impact our course countries or each other, and that is typically done through investment. This investment is called foreign direct investment, or FDI, which simply just means that a foreign country is directly investing into your economy. Specifically, China has been a country that has shown massive amounts of FDI. They're a country that accepts money. America sending Apple, sending Nike to China, as well as China is sending a lot of money to countries like Nigeria or currently Iran. With that, what we are trying to focus on is that can you separate the socio-cultural and the economic? And the answer is no. Typically, when an economic boost of cash comes in, workers from that country go to the other countries. So right now we see a massive influx of Chinese speaking inside of Africa due to foreign direct investment. We also see a massive amount of English inside of the eastern Yangtze River area of like Shanghai. That is because the businessmen are coming from those countries. So inherently there is a large cultural influence that comes with the foreign direct investment. This can cause many things, but generally speaking, we like to think it's a positive thing because once you mix cultures, you kind of typically take the best of both cultures. Typically, right? Typically. Generally speaking, there are problems. Obviously, we've seen that inside of many countries as of recently protesting immigration, specifically illegal immigration, as we've seen inside of America, as we've seen in Japan, Australia, essentially everywhere. But that is very different than what is caused by FDI and globalization. It is not focusing on immigration. It's focusing that businesses from other countries are coming to our country and they are bringing their workers, their intelligence, their intellectual property, and naturally those are going to mix, right? That can cause domestic backlash though, as we saw inside of China with the Great Firewall, is that is a huge backlash. They don't want a lot of the Western ideas inside of their country, but they do want the Western businesses, right? With that, what ends up happening is that this foreign direct investment, like what we talked about earlier, is it leads to a better life. More money equals a better life for the vast majority of people. Better access to healthcare, better access to food, better access to longevity of life. Those are all great things. Generally, when we have a better life, there's also some cons that come with it. And when it comes to neoliberalism, when it comes to massive capitalism, probably the biggest is environmental damage. This is an area that China really did struggle with. China had some of the worst AQI on Earth because they utilized coal power for heating, typically in northern China, as well as their domestic production plants in plastic and textiles caused a vast amount of pollution, plastic waste, textile waste. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, China has done a fantastic job as of recently to bring the AQI down to where now Shanghai is relatively equivalent to most major cities in AQI. It's basically the same as Bangkok. As well as you can see that a lot of citizens protested for it, specifically with Beijing. Beijing was known to have horrific AQI, and the ending result was a massive protest, a massive pushback from the people, and the final result is that they had to fix that AQI problem, which is fantastic. And we can talk about civil society in a different unit, right? But overall, the final perspective of this aspect of Unit 5 is going to be talking about the actual political implication. The political implication is that these large foreign governments, like China going to Africa, America going to the Middle East, is going to cause massive amount of intergovernmental organizational changes. That means the United Nations, the IMF, the World Bank are going to be taking a consideration into what is happening. Whether that be economic sanctions for a country going into another country and utilizing slave labor or child labor, like we saw inside of Vietnam or in Indonesia or into Africa or the Middle East, or what's currently happening in Myanmar and Bangladesh. People are protesting that, and they don't like the fact that these big companies are going in and utilizing child and slave labor. That is due to foreign government bringing political and economic pressure. Right? These businesses are coming in from different countries, causing economic pressure, which then includes political pressure. So overall, what happens is that as you have this capitalist economy coming into a non-capitalist nation, typically, they will bring in maybe not the healthiest form of, I guess you would like to say, workers' rights. And typically the response is that the intergovernmental supranational organizations have to come in and try to fix this to the best of their abilities. The ending result is this is a huge political debate in modern society of, do we want more neoliberalist, globalist society, big businesses, massive companies like Walmart, Google, whatever, or do we actually want market forces to potentially control this? So if we're looking at like supply and demand and whatnot, can a country such as Thailand focus on just producing enough for its people rather than trying to sell to everyone else and make a boatload of money? And that is a really hard question to answer. But what we do know is that globalization historically has brought better access to resources, life expectancy, workers' rights, etc., on the long term. Maybe in the most recent 5 to 10 years we could have a harder argument, but if you look back at the early 1900s to today, it is light years different. And that's something that we need to always remember, is that we are not focusing on the last 2 years, we're focusing on the last 200 years when we're talking about these changes, right? So overall, Unit 5.3, globalization. See you later, alligators.